Every home has a story, and on this edition of Tennessee Stories of Homes, we tell the story of 430 North Spring Street on a lovely, quiet street in McMinnville. Miss Jean will tell more about the history of this home on this edition of Tennessee Stories of Home.
My hope would be for the young people in our small communities to always preserve the touch to your growing up, your family, and be proud of your history that you have from being in the country. Don't be ashamed of growing up in the country and not being out in the world, but know that you have the opportunity to visit other countries, to study in other countries. There are many grants that you can get to do these kinds of things. Pursue it. Look beyond your roots, but never forget your roots.
The MyUsage app is a way to conveniently pay online, anytime, day or night, from the comfort of your home. You can also come by any Caney Fork Electric office and sign up for the prepay option available using the MyUsage app. Know exactly how much electricity is used each day and the cost. Best of all, no monthly bill. You can set up email or text alerts, keep track of your usage, and pay your bill, all with the MyUsage app from Caney Fork. Caney Fork Electric, keeping you informed.
Communitytvtn is brought to you by Security Federal Savings Bank, proudly serving the community we call home.
Grace Family Pharmacy announces new medication packaging service. It provides a simpler, safer medication experience through convenient, personalized packaging using the latest in pharmacy robotics. We're located at 357 West Main Street. Our phone number is 931-473-6418.
McMinnville, you're a great place to be. McMinnville, Tennessee.
I hope this highway leads me back to town. I've been too long on this road. Maybe this time I'll come back home to stay. I wonder why I ever rode from people that walk like me and talk like me. County fairs and a marching band. Now that I've come back home, I'll never roam again. I've found my place to stand. I'll take any road that gets me back home. Just give me the word to go, and I'll live out my life there on the narrow fork, there in the shadow of the
There's more to our identity than our DNA. It's not just our genealogy that makes us who we are. It's not just the environment we grew up in, but it's the land we walked on as children, as parents. My daughter, when she was little, played in these leaves with my mother, her granny, holding her hand. The land makes us who we are as much as anything.
This is Jean Williams, and I'm from Quebec, as most people would call it, or Quebec, just across the line from Warren County and White County. Went to school there all my life, and then to Tennessee Tech, graduated from Tennessee Tech, and went on to Vanderbilt and got a master's degree there. Postgraduate work in England at Oxford, England. And many years later, I came back to my home to be closer to my mother and worked with Motlow in Moore County from 1980 to 1997, and then I moved up here to work at Motlow in McMinnville. Most of the time I was teaching in McMinnville Most of the time I was in administration on the Moore campus. But when I got here, I found this old home that had been empty for a long time, known as the Farm Bureau to most people. But it had been a tea room for a couple of years with Miss Wilson. And I just fell in love with it. When I walked in that long hallway, I thought, wow, I would love to turn this into some Victorian looking home. And I've played with it now for 27 years, and I'm still addressing how I can keep it up with today's time and have the old look at the same time. So I truly, truly love Warren County, love this house, but I'm of the age where I need a small house, not a great big 2-story house. So that's why I am considering the sale of the house. And I hope that whoever buys it will love it as much as I do. The back of this lot was nothing but gravel, and it was paved at my back here by Farm Bureau. And then when it became a tea room and she had overflow, she graveled it for the rest of the way back. So I had to bring in many, many loads of dirt just to make a backyard out of it. And the backyard goes, this is 9/10 of an acre. And this has been worked on now. Most of the 27 years have been upgrading the yard somehow, because it wasn't a yard at all. I've added the little house in the back and all of the flowers, and up at my house you can see what a love I have for flowers. But it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to explore the latter part of my life. I have spent a good portion of my life working in other countries, especially in the summertime. I've taken many, many classes of students with MTSU as a partner to study in France, and enjoyed every moment of taking children to see, I call them children because they're young adults, but I love to see their eyes sparkle, to see a part of the world that they had never seen. Many of them never been on a plane. And we took tours in England and Scotland and Italy. And each year I would plan a different tour that we would do along with studying. This back part of the house used to be just a porch all the way across when it was with Farm Bureau. Then when Miss Wilson added the addition to it, it was for her supplies for the tea room. Then when I bought it in '97, I was talking to a friend, Victoria, who was an artist. I said, I need to put some windows in because it's so dark in there. She said, rather than put in windows, why don't I just paint you windows on the back side? So all of this artwork was done, including the brick, was artwork that Victoria did to make it appear that there were windows when it's nothing but artwork. She has lots of artwork inside the house as well. Right here is the date that the brickman made and had stamped his initials, Lawrence. Each wall, on the outside wall, has one brick that shows that he was the maker of the bricks. The bricks were made next door, actually. We found out when my neighbor pulled out the floor all the way down to the ground, he found where this Lawrence fellow had a hole where he had dug and burned and heated these bricks for this house, because we found the bricks exactly with his name in it in the neighbor's under his kitchen. So this goes back to 1902, even though the Wallings brothers at the bank probably had it just as a lot that they sold to Miss Sykes. Then she built the house, and it took several years to put it together. So we'll see some of the work that was demonstrated in the craftsmanship during that time period. This is the back entrance, but this is where most people came into Farm Bureau. Most people come in today through the back door. And it was Farm Bureau from 1957 to 1992. That's when Miss Wilson bought it for a tea room. During those years, many people came in here to Farm Bureau, or they actually worked here or had a family member who worked here. So this is got lots of memories for a lot of people. One of the funniest stories that I have about the house is when two guys walked in, and I had just stepped out of the bathroom, but thank goodness I had put my clothes on before I stepped out, and they were standing here in the hallway, and I said, "Could I help you fellas?" And they said, "This is Farm Bureau, isn't it?" As they looked up to the ceilings, and I said, "No, it hasn't been Farm Bureau in many, many years." But it's just amazing to me how many memories people have of this place. From the hallway, most people remember the hallway because it is an amazing piece of architect. It has original floors throughout. There's only one thing that I have changed architecturally speaking, because if someone wanted to actually get this registered as a historical house, I want them to know exactly the changes that have taken place. And that is, I've taken out the wall of the dining room to the kitchen to make it more one big room. That's the only major change I have made. I've made additions to it, but not many changes other than taking out a wall.
I noticed this beautiful painting here. You have a lot of paintings. Tell me just a little bit about some of the reasons why you selected those.
The paintings that you see all have a story. This one I found actually in a foreign country, and it looks very much like something from Austria, and I think that's where it's from. It is signed, but it reminded me so much of my farm days as I grew up. I had pets of everything: goats, sheep, chickens, plus the dogs and cats. Anything that was an animal automatically became a good friend of mine. I was the youngest of 6 and much younger than my other siblings, so all of these animals became my playmates. That just took me back to my youth and my growing up when I saw that painting. So I rolled it up and carefully brought it home on my lap so that it wouldn't get lost or scarred in any way. Then this painting is from a lady who taught art for many, many years at Tennessee Tech, and I enjoyed her art so much. She painted this for me. Actually, I did pay her for it, but it's just a painting that I love. I cherish it, so I take it with me every time I move. It's a painting of the leaves that drops off onto the facing of the painting. Now, the artwork in the hallway is mainly of trees and scenes from the outside that Victoria Young again did this artwork, and she brought into the hallway scenes of posts and trees, and then over here would be leaves on marble that she painted this to appear to be marble blocks, all the way up to this little cottage. And I love English cottages, so I sketched this out, and she painted then the entrance to this little English cottage here. So all of this artwork on both sides was something that Victoria did. And unfortunately, she left us and went to Colorado. This bird cage I found in Tullahoma in the early 90s. Didn't know a thing about this bird cage. Didn't even look it up for years. It was been in the last 3 or 4 years that I even learned anything about this bird cage. So the antique owner had it listed for $500, and I said, I just can't put $500 into a bird cage. So I said, would you take $300? And he said, I'll take $350. Well, as I looked it up just not long ago, I found out that this bird cage had just sold for more than $6,000. And today there's one listed for $8,000. I had no idea what I had, or I would have taken better care of it. This piece of artwork is called The Birds. The birds are made of leaves. It is artistic, but it's also very crafty looking. And I just adore the work that went into the making of this from leaves, turning those leaves into birds. This is the dining room. The end it used to be a separate room from the kitchen. And when I needed a larger kitchen, we decided to take this wall out. The only big major thing that I did was to cut this wall out. And in here, this came from Sweden. I bought it from a man in Lebanon. And I first had this piece and the dining piece. And then about 6 months later, he called me and he said, I have another piece that matches your dining set, which just amazed me that, number one, he remembered that I bought it, and number two, that he found something that actually matched the original 2 pieces that I had. But this is large, so large that it would be unique to a big home with large ceilings and lots of space. So this is something I won't be taking with me. I'm hoping that whoever buys the house or somebody who sees the artistic craftsmanship that went into this, it's just amazing to see the fine tune of the work that they did in molding these little tiny pieces. It looks like a tiny quilt piece down here where they have quilted these pieces together with wood. Simply amazing. Looks like a stamp quilt here, just not even 1-inch squares here that's been put together. This was the kitchen part of the tea room. Therefore, it had grease on the wall, and it has lots of places where it is rough, and it has actually broken into, over the years, I guess, shift in the house. So when I was talking to this artist friend of mine, Victoria, I said, I guess we're just gonna have to cover up this whole room because it's just full of these little cracks in the seams here of the of the wall, and she said, rather than cover it up, let's just give it the Tuscany look. And so she painted it where you can feel it with your fingers. There's a crack in the wall, and she colored it darker so it would stand out. So I call this the Italian Tuscany room. This is a kitchen that was designed by Jeff Jewell, and it's designed specifically for this area. It is a beautiful piece of work that he did. And the beauty of it all can be seen when you open up some of the drawers. He's built in like lazy Susans in the corners. He built a special cabinet where I could put all of my antique pieces of special collections that I've collected over the years. So it's very personal to me, but I'm hoping that whoever owns the house after me will enjoy it equally as well as I have enjoyed it. The history of this home starts with Jesse Wallen and his brother. His brother's name was Bill. And they had a bank in downtown here in McMinnville. They bought the land and kept it for quite some time before they sold it to Sally Seitz and her husband, Albert. Now, they had the house for about 30-something years when they sold it to the Meltons. I don't know anything about their livelihood or what they did, but I'm hoping that somebody who will see this could tell me, because I don't know anything about these families. But then Farm Bureau came along and bought the house from the Meltons and Sally Seitz in 1957, and they had it up until 1992, and that's when Jeanette Wilson bought the house, and she named it the Stained Glass Tea Room. There's several places throughout the outside of the house where there's stained glass that shows through from the inside to the outside. Some is so high that most people don't even see it. It's way up in the second story of the building. So I have added some stained glass myself to the windows here in what I call the receiving room, just to keep up with the name that she gave the place, the Stained Glass Tea Room. Jeanette had health issues, and she didn't keep the tea room going but a couple of years. And then I bought it from her. It had been empty for 3 or 4 years when I bought it. And the moment I stepped in the hallway, I saw potential for this to be made into a nice home and reminiscence of Victorian times. So to start out with, I pretty much decorated it with Victorian time period, and then I just decided that the dark colors and some of the things that I had to decorate with wasn't uplifted, so I decided I would just tone it up, put it in today's world, paint it light grays and light blues, and then address it in the country look. I love the country look. And it still fits this house. This house looks like an just ordinary brick farmhouse. And that's the way I want to keep it. So I extended the flooring of the front porch to go from the front all the way to the side porch to make it look even more like a country home. And I added the post to it to kind of give it a little Victorian look mixed with country look. So I hope that people will come view the house, and I hope that whoever buys the house will continue to appreciate the house as much as I have. It's time for me to move on. I've lived here for 27 years. I've given it my touch, and I know that other people can do much better than anything that I have done, but I've spent a lot of time with the lighting. The lighting was not good at all. This is why we lowered the ceilings, for example, in here. On the walls, you will see a lot of pictures and items that came from a boat trip that my husband and my 8-year-old son at that point took. We sold our house, took the proceeds, bought a sailboat, went down through the Caribbean and on to South America then for a year. We took a year off from life, so to speak. I taught my child when he was on the boat. We'd take a day and go to the front of the boat every day and do our lesson plan and send it back home. So we have depicted the time that we were there. My son is now 40 and he's gone back to school. I'm proud of him. He's gone back to school to get his master's degree. And he is in computer science and security of computers. So he's as far different from me as night and day, but that makes up a family. We have many memories from things that we brought home, and I've shared a lot of the things that we have with, like my neighbors next door have 4 little girls. So I gave them many of the shells that we found on that trip, but it just became more than I could carry around the rest of my life, so I shared it with those 4 little girls. So the tree of life over there is just something that I have always adored, was the artwork of the tree of life. My hope would be for the young people in our small communities to always preserve the touch to your growing up, your family, and be proud of your history that you have from being in the country. Don't be ashamed of growing up in the country and not being out in the world, but know that you have the opportunity to visit other countries, to study in other countries. There are many grants that you can get to do these kinds of things. Pursue it. Look beyond your roots, but never forget your roots. I've taken many students who flew for the first time, who had been out of the state for the first time, and then to take them out of the country to study would be beyond anything they ever thought they could do. But every child here will have that same opportunity. You just have to pursue it.